What's going on, everyone? Joe with Baker Street Timepieces here with.
Tim, Baker Street Timepieces South. What's going on?
And we're here to bring you, I guess, chapter six. Chapter six of our, let's see, live stream that I feel like has had some bumps and bruises along the way in terms of trying to get my microphone to work. So hopefully it's working this time. So that should be a good thing. But yeah, chapter six of the Dispatch. So looking forward to connecting with everybody here today. Hopefully we get some questions in the chat and people that want to bring up some interesting stuff about some of the things we're talking about. But what's going on with you, Tim? Anything good?
Yeah, no, it's kind of a busy week. We had a fairly good start to March. Had quite a few pieces moving out, and in fact, we had a little bit lighter week as far as buying stuff is concerned. So next week we'll have a few more coming in, but yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I would say for those of you kind of tuning in, we definitely have, I would say, 4 or 5 pieces at least on the way, hoping for the beginning part of next week. And then hopefully we should have a couple more to back it up for either the back half of next week or the beginning of the following week. So we're trying to get the right pieces for everybody. So bear with us as we go through it. But for a rundown of today, so we'll go through the dispatch. We'll talk about some industry news, more really some industry releases, I would say. Some interesting stuff that I would say came out over maybe the last week and a half. So we'll go through that a little bit. Then from there, we'll dig into the evidence locker. We'll talk through kind of some of the pieces that we have. Some of the pieces that are new to the inventory, obviously, and then we also have some pieces that are a little bit older that we figured worth it to kind of get back in front of everybody and see if there's anything that we can answer question wise on those. And then we'll go into under the lens, which we're going to talk about kind of what is a chronograph, how do we use it, what does it do. So. Without too much further ado, Tim, you want me to kind of dig into some of these first pieces here? Does that make sense?
I think you skipped a cardinal part of the start of the show, Joe.
Let's do it. What do we got?
We got a wristwatch check going on here, boys and girls.
Let's do it.
In keeping. I'm always wearing the inventory because that's the whole reason I got into the watch business in the first place, so I could wear watches that I don't actually have to pay my own money for. So last week we highlighted this particular piece. This is the Tudor Red Bull Alinghi. It's got a very long name. Pelagos. We actually have 2 of these in stock now. We actually have a brand dandy new one, and we have this one, which is got a little bit of wrist time. We bought it pre-owned, but really cool, super light. One of the things that I like about it, this is the second time I'm wearing it, and I think it just looks awesome with a pair of light blue jeans. So, you know me, I'm all vanity all the time. So.
All right, I have so this is the Oris Diver 65 chronograph. I know you can't see it too well there. Let's see if I can get it under the lens for us. Hold on. But what I liked about this is two-tone, so this has got kind of the bronze accents around the top of it, and then obviously kind of has that really domed sapphire, which I think looks really, really cool on this piece. So I liked it a lot. I bought it. We actually had one in inventory. I liked it so much when I first got it. It sold pretty much right away that I went and sourced one for myself. So that's kind of one of the ways of doing that, I guess. So I kind of did the opposite of you. You like wearing the pieces we have. We had a piece I liked, and I went and bought it for myself. So maybe I'm not doing this whole thing right.
Yeah, you got it backwards, bro.
Well, actually, you know what's funny? Not only did I skip the wristwatch check, but I actually had an interesting fact. So my father-in-law, coincidentally also named Joe, had read an article the other day about what is the actual meaning of when we say like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. And he had messaged me and he was like, do you know what it is? And I was like, I think this would be interesting for the live stream. And I was like, to be honest, I have no clue. And then when I went and we did the research, I read through the article, it was actually kind of a little bit like, I guess, disappointing because it just means of the clock. So it's like 2 of the clock or 3 of the clock. I thought there was going to be some cool old English meaning to it, but not really.
That's funny. I think I remember reading like some like old English book and they mentioned that, but I didn't realize that that's what coined the phrase o'clock.
Yeah. So either way, cool to know. Little fun fact there. But all right, what do we say? We move into some industry news here. We'll talk about some new releases.
Yeah, let's rock and roll.
All right, let's see here. So the first thing here is from Moser. And right off the bat, I'm like, what the heck is going on here? So it's their Streamliner Alpine drivers and mechanics pink editions. So I guess this is a watch that they had already released, but not necessarily in this colorway. I guess this is a collaboration with BWT. I'm obviously not a big Formula One guy, but I'm sure that means something to someone on the call here. But what I thought was really, really interesting about it is, so apparently this kind of like V-shaped bridge that you're seeing here, there's two of them. And apparently that's supposed to kind of be modeled after the suspension in the car. And then that is a central chronograph. So, right, the minute hand for the chronograph when it starts is actually what's happening. Second hand for the chronograph and the minute hand for the chronograph are happening in that central side with no subdials whatsoever. So kind of cool. And then what you're seeing there is that second piece is actually the mechanics version of the watch. So the one on the right is the driver's version. The one on the left is the mechanics version, which as you can see is kind of this hybrid for digital and analog. So it's apparently Bluetooth synced up. It's got all their lap timing information and stuff like that. But then it's got the analog clock on the top, which I thought was pretty cool. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, bright color is my first reaction. I think it's an awesome idea, kind of for the racing team to have two pieces that they can kind of use in two different ways. I'm not sure how much the general public is going to care about that concept, but, hey, it's a cool idea. Yeah. I think, I'm always a big fan of the companies going for big swings with the colors. And Moser is kind of known for doing some pretty interesting stuff that way anyway. At the end of the day, it's not for me, but for somebody, they're going to really love these two watches.
I'll tell you, with the price tag, you better be committed to loving pink, and you better be committed to loving that watch. So
I can't read the price. What's the price?
59,000 Czech francs is just a little tax on top of that, and you could own one of these as well.
60 francs. Yeah, 60,000 francs. I don't know what that adds up to in freedom money, but it sounds like a lot.
Yeah. All right, so that's one from Moser. Then we have going down to a little bit more, I would say, affordable to the everyday folk would be this release from Norqain. So Norqain obviously still pretty new on the scene, but this particular piece is their Adventure Never Rest limited edition with that kind of orange strap. And it's almost got like these little mountains / like their logo in it. I think it's a pretty cool looking piece. I really like the kind of black to gray gradient on the dial. Generally speaking, I think it's got a really cool adventure vibe to it. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. First reaction to that is I would absolutely sooner wear that. I like the orange. I definitely like the gray gradient, as you pointed out. Me personally, if I were going to actually own and wear this watch, it looks like there's two different color straps. Is that what I see? Those two little color bubbles on the bottom? Yep. That's exactly the way I would wear it that way. I think that's a little more subtle and a little bit more in my wheelhouse. Is that $4,400? Is that what that says?
So it's $4,400. I mean, usually once these hit the pre-owned market, you get a pretty big discount from there. But yeah, $4,400 retail, and that's 40 millimeters.
Yeah. Yeah, so 40 millimeters is a good size for me. I like 40 millimeter, really rugged looking watches. I think it's a wearable watch for me. I wouldn't hesitate to pull the trigger for anything under 2K. I think that's about its price point, in my opinion. And I'm sure that's going to be exactly where it'll fall when it falls into the pre-owned marketplace, for a decent example of it. But
yeah, I would say for these non-limited, I mean, I think you could probably get them sub like 1,500 for something like this. You may pay a little bit of a premium just because it is supposed to be truly limited to, I think, like 250 pieces or something like that. So depending on kind of how badly you want to own this particular colorway, that could come into play.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll keep my fingers crossed that somewhere down the road somebody comes to us on BST.com saying, I want to trade this thing, and I'll be like, oh, cool, I get to wear it for a couple of days, because I would do that. That would be fun. I'd wear it for a couple of days.
For sure. So yeah, really, I mean, kind of a quiet week, I would say, in terms of industry news. There wasn't too much else that came out from my end, other than the continued stir around what we brought up last week in terms of the Pepsi disappearing from the Rolex website and what that could potentially mean going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, one other thing that I wanted to bring up that I think might be interesting, and it may be a little bit of the behind the doors for kind of the dealers in the watch business, but for those that don't know, there's a lot of watch traffic that goes from the Middle East into the United States and then ultimately into the retail community. And I wonder how much, the unrest that's going on over there may affect some things. So you may have another kind of a prod that's going to start to drive pricing. So, I know last week we kind of both said that, we think that we'll continue to see a modest a modest price increase coming, and we're starting to see it on the wholesale side. But I wonder if that's going to put even additional pressure on the wholesale market, which will eventually find its way into the retail market. So,
yeah, I mean, time will tell. I think we'll probably start to feel the effects of that if that's going to be seen over the next, couple of weeks, I would say. It's usually pretty quick.
Yeah, next couple of weeks. Yep, exactly
awesome.
Right.
Well, that kind of concludes our dispatch for the day. We kept it nice and brief. Just figured if there's not a ton to talk about, we'll focus on some inventory and then get into, what is a chronograph. But what do we say we pop up some of our inventory? You got the Pelagos loaded up there. We ready to roll?
Yeah, Pelagos is ready to go.
Cool. So first piece of inventory for the day. You want to start talking about it?
Yeah. So first of all, Pelagos as a general statement is one of those watches that when I first looked at it, I wasn't exactly sure what it was meant to be. And now that we've had a couple of them, and I've worn them a couple of times, what I've really found is that it is a very balanced, Tudor. It has, definitely a sporty attitude. The titanium kind of plays into that. Obviously, it's a diver, but there's something to me every time I look at that dial. There's something to me that has some design language that I see in chronograph, even though there's definitely no chronograph there. But I kind of get a feel for that there. And at the end of the day, I really do wind up liking this as far as the Tudors are concerned. In fact, I am very much trying to talk my lovely wife into allowing me to buy this particular two-liner for myself. Because it is a somewhat collectible piece. For those who know, there's some collectability there. Past that, I think it's just a very easy to wear daily. Again, Tudor is very bulletproof, and I think this one has a little bit of collectability to it. So go ahead, Joe. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think right off the bat, what I like is that they've taken kind of the novel from the current Tudor on the Pelagos and thrown it out for the two liners. Obviously this one, precedes those, but it's just less busy, the dial. I feel like it's a little bit more balanced. I think that just the two lines of text, I think it looks a little bit better. My understanding is with the ETA variant like this one, this is slightly thinner and wears just a little bit more comfortably, the same way kind of the Black Bay 41 does with the ETA in it. So I think it's a really, if you're looking for kind of a little niche within the Pelagos market, this might be one of them because it's just a little bit more collectible at this point. I mean, everybody has kind of the newer model, it seems like, and this is just a little different than that. I know this one was serviced in 2022 or so, but this one in particular, I mean, the service cost on an ETA is just a lot more reasonable too. So owning something like this, cost of ownership is pretty reasonable. But I think it's a great watch. I love it. I think the Pelagos is awesome. Black dial, blue dial, I'd take either. And I think it's, obviously a very capable diver if that's what you're interested in as well. So that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, and I don't know if this will be the hot take of the day, but I think it wears a little smaller than its 42 millimeters indicates. Yeah, that's my take on it. So,
would you say that for all of them, or just this one in particular?
It's funny that you say that. I'm not sure. I mean, we just had the newer model last week that had sold, and then now this one. I wore both of them. I like this one better, but I don't know exactly why. It's an intangible. But I think the fact that you mentioned that it's more collectible probably piqued my interests and made me start to think more about it. But yeah, I've worn it, I think 4 times. I traded for it last week, and I've worn it 4 times out of the last 6 days since it came into the shop. So
yeah, no, super cool piece. I would say, somebody's going to get, an interesting one with this one. So hopefully that'll find its next owner, start its next history.
I was going to say, buy it before I twist my wife's arm and try to buy it for myself.
All right. Well, you're up next, I think. So that one, just so we know as we close out, that's case 260. That one is available, obviously, on BakerStreetTimepieces.com and all other platforms.
And that is basically a full kit. Yeah, that's basically a full kit except it doesn't have the original warranty card, but it does have a service warranty card. So,
Got it. Copy that.
all right, let's put something really different under the lens here today. This is also we've been doing some trading. We've been doing some horse trading over here at Baker Street Timepieces, and this
Say
is
when.
the result of one of those. Yeah, it's not in focus yet. Hold on. Okay. It's a big watch. Big watch.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. We're bringing you case 258 next. And this
Ready to shoot
is
it up.
3/4 of the quorum.
It doesn't fit. It's too big. Can you zoom out?
I can try, sure. Why don't you talk us through what it is while I attempt to zoom out here a little bit.
Yeah. So it's funny. When the client reached out to us and said, you know, I'd like to trade for the Bulgari that we showed last week. And I said, yeah, what do you have to trade? He goes, I have a quorum. And the only thing I could think of is those bubble quorums that, I don't know. I don't want to offend anybody who may love the bubble quorums, but they're not my favorite.
They're an acquired
watch.
taste. Let's leave it there.
They're an acquired taste, especially the one with the skull made of rhinestones. I think that one in particular is
very acquired.
Very classy. Very acquired, classy taste. Anyway, when he sent me the pictures of this one, I had never seen this watch. It's called the Romulus. It is a big presence. Joe, you haven't seen it in person, but it's 42. But in what I was just saying about the Pelagos wearing a little smaller than the 42, this one wears large. This one wears like a 40, 43, 44. It is very shiny. The dial has a lot of intricacy to it, which is kind of on the subtle side, considering how large the piece is. And it really, with the Roman numerals around the outside, I think it actually has a very European flair to it, which is really pretty cool. So if you're a bigger guy, maybe you're into kind of higher fashion, maybe some of that Versace Prada fashion, this is a piece that goes with that look really, really, really well, in my opinion. That's kind of what I say. And again, I really can't stress, I don't think it's coming through well on the stream here. I would definitely check the pictures out on the website. The dial is really pretty intricate considering. So
I think the power reserve indicator is pretty cool. I think the whole watch, generally speaking, looks. I think European's an interesting way to put it. I don't know. It looks like maybe it's just the big Roman numerals, but to me, like this almost looks like a clock that you'd see, I don't know, outside of like a music hall or something like that. Is kind of what I'm getting from it.
Yep.
I do like the dial. I think the dial looks cool. Those kind of graduated lines that get thicker and thinner as they get towards the outsides. But yeah, to your point, I would say that the quorum has definitely pushed the boundaries on certain watches, and this is kind of a uniquely refreshing, I would say, not down the middle because it's still unique, but I would say tamed version of kind of some of the stuff that they've put out is how I would go about it. But yeah, cool looking piece for sure.
Yeah, last thing I would call out here is number one, this is a very full kit. I mean, this is... The previous owner of this watch was very meticulous. There's literally pretty much anything that was in that box originally is there. And then secondly, I mean, it's priced right. I mean, this is a piece that you're going to get into, sub 2K. You're going to have a ton of wrist presence, especially if you're a bigger dude who wants a dressy watch and wants that European flair and don't want to spend a lot of money. And you got a nice watch here for that combination. So that's my opinion on case 258, the Quorum Romulus.
Yeah, no, super cool piece. So I'll transition back to us so they could look at the dancing talking heads for a second while you load up the next one. Next one's a piece that we've had for a bit. We're just looking for the right buyer on it. So this is case number 158, which is an Omega Aquaterra, but it's got a very unique dial. So we'll bring that up here in a second. Let me know when it's loaded. Which I think people are kind of maybe overlooking how unique this dial is. My understanding from some of the conversations that I've had is that this is a JDM release in terms of the dial was not released here in America primarily. I actually think it looks awesome. It's like if you're going to get a regular silver or white dial Aquaterra, I think this has a little bit more character than that. It's something where I feel like if you walk into a room of watch enthusiasts, people still might sit there and say, what's that? It's kind of different than a lot of the other Aquaterras that you might see. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I don't think I'm telling lies out of school when I say when you told me you bought 6 Aquaterras a couple of weeks ago, I was not the one who was the most happy about it. I'm not a giant Aquaterra fan, so we'll start there. That said, out of all the Aquaterras that we've had, this is the only one that I've worn,
Yeah.
which I think speaks volumes because I think it's really cool. And I like the blue teak dial. I liked the gray teak dial. But this one, I think, out of all the teak dials, is really the coolest of the bunch. So,
Yeah.
in my opinion, you're getting a very, very subtle look that probably punches a little higher than its weight class. And again, I don't remember exactly what we have this listed for, but it's in that $3,000 to $4,000 range, which is, this is an awful lot of watch. It'll last your lifetime, and then another lifetime beyond your own lifetime. These are well built and well constructed. And just a super, super nice piece for the next person who's ready to add something that splits the middle between sport, collector. It's one of those do everything type of watches. It'll go in the water and go right to the boardroom thereafter, and you won't look silly in either environment.
I feel like even in a formal setting, and I'll let you switch it out as I'm talking through it, but even in like a formal setting, if you had that kind of peeking out from under a sport coat or a dress shirt, like I feel like it still causes like, ooh, what's that? Like that dial is interesting. I think it's a conversation starter. It's something that people would look at and be like, okay, I know what an Omega is. Like I've seen this style of watch before, but what the heck is that? So I think that, from that perspective, you might get some interesting looks on it, but super cool piece.
Yeah, I think again, I think somebody is going to get a watch that's going to do a lot for them in the long run. So hopefully the right person comes along and makes the call.
Yeah, so we did have a question from the chat from Brian who was asking what year that Aquaterra was. So that Aquaterra is watch only and it's short a few links. So definitely if it's something where we needed to find some links, we can help you with that. So we don't necessarily know the year on it, but if you give us just a second, while Tim's kind of walking us through the next one, I'll find out the exact years of manufacture on that one so that we can hone it in a little bit more. Are we ready on that next one?
You may be able to. Yeah, I've got the endurance up, so.
Gotcha.
Flip that over. Let me push it just a little bit more so it's a little better centered there. Whoa, it popped up. I get to see my big fingers. Sorry. All right, so we have a Breitling Endurance. We had a couple of these a while back. We had a red one, and then I think we had a black one initially. This is the yellow variant. This is a pretty full kit. I've got just about everything that it came with. It is a light sports chronograph from Breitling that is battery powered. So kind of meant to be, maybe just not quite as complex, something that you could really kind of take into the field, beat the ever-loving bejesus out of it and have it keep on running, shock impact and that kind of stuff. It's shock resistant. I think the secret sauce on this particular one is the PVD coating, or what they call the bright PVD case, which is the Breitling, what do they call it? Bright Light case. Yeah. Very, very light, only weighs about 70 grams, and it is super resistant to scratching. So it's just one of those things that you can just wear this thing and beat it up, and it's going to take it. And then you got a COSC super quartz in there that is really super accurate, and again, you don't need to worry about setting it, winding it, and all that. You just kind of wear it every day, and then eventually change the battery. And listen, you've got a compass on the compass style bezel. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a really, really cool looking piece, as far as I'm concerned. And 44 millimeter, I'd say this one wears a little less substantial than its size. I think it fits more like a 42. And at only 12.5 millimeters thick, what's really nice is if you are in the field, really using this watch as it's kind of intended to be, it's not getting caught on stuff. One of the things that they sometimes, you see some of like those big giant Casio or, even the big G-Shocks, they're so thick, they get caught on everything. This is subtle. You can wear it out in the field and it's not going to get stuck on anything. So that's my opinion.
I remember when I first put this watch on, we had the red variant before this. When I first put it on, I was amazed at how light it was. Like it's almost
Yeah.
like when you put the that Pelagos on, that FXD or something like that. It's just, it doesn't feel like you're wearing a watch at all. And for me, for something like this, where even you're out camping, you're out doing whatever. I mean, maybe not hunting on this one; it's pretty bright, but you're out camping or fishing or doing whatever it is. I mean, this is a robust watch. Like you could wear this, you could knock it around. It can see some dings and scratches. It's not a big deal, but it really does feel like you're not wearing a watch at all. The Breitling rubber straps tend to be really comfortable as well. So like if you're wearing this for a long period of time while you're out and about, like you're not going to feel like you're uncomfortable with having it on for such a time. It really does everything you need it to. So I think, great option if this is something that you're looking for something you can kind of wear around, beat it up a little bit. It's 44. I would agree with you. I think it wears more like a 43, 42 even. It wears tighty because it's thin. I think overall a great piece.
Yeah, and one last thing, I'm going to go out on I'm going to make a left-hand turn here from something that I didn't talk about with Joe ahead of time, but we actually have a black rubber strap with this watch as well. So if you buy it from the stream today and put in the black strap in the comment section there, I'll throw the black strap in for free. So. Nice. There's an opportunity for you to get a little extra value for your money on this watch because it's been sitting around a little while. Maybe we'll give a little incentive to the group here if anybody's interested.
Cool. And that's case 173, so that's available on the website. Feel free to check it out. All right, cool. So I think we got, one more to go through here?
One more. And this is one that I honestly, I can't – I'm bummed out that we haven't found the right buyer for this one yet because, again – this one is just a really nice looking watch, and I'm vamping while I get it open so I can put it under the lens here. But as a dress watch is concerned, which is what this is, it's a pure dress watch. I don't think it's pretending to be anything other than that. It is absolutely very pretty, and it's totally not cooperating at the moment.
There you go.
There we go.
I'll zoom in on that a little bit. Well, if there was ever a polar opposite to the Breitling Endurance, it might be this watch right here.
I was going to say, yeah. Why don't you lead the way on this one? I've done a lot of talking about our inventory today.
Sure. Yeah, no problem whatsoever. So this is the Omega DeVille Prestige. This one comes in at 39.5. If I remember correctly, this is the coaxial 2500 movement. I think when you look at something like this, it's thin enough to easily wear under a dress cuff, a dress shirt, or a sport coat. I think the dial is clean, legible, gives you everything that you might look for in a dress watch. It's simple but not boring. It is classy. It kind of sits properly on the wrist to what you would expect out of a dress watch. It's that kind of rhodium silver dial, kind of Roman indices, and then that minute track around the outside. I wouldn't wear it diving. Obviously, this is not going to be built for that, but really just a very, very classic and classy dress watch as part of the DeVille line. My perspective on this is that, so this one's offered as watch only, if I remember correctly. Price reflects that, obviously. It's in very clean condition. Previous owner kept it very nice. But to me, this is one of those things where if you're not somebody who's in formal situations often, but you want to watch for when you're in those formal situations, you're not going to spend, Breguet or any of those kind of monies to get this beautiful piece. You're going to spend a lot less, and now you have something to solidify, hey, I'm going to a wedding or whatever it is, and I need to throw something a little bit more formal on. So if you're a watch enthusiast, want something that's got some horological prowess to put on the wrist for when you're going to those situations but don't want to break the bank, I think this is a perfect kind of middle ground for you. Anything else you would add?
Yeah. I can't agree enough. In fact, as you said that, all I was thinking is, this is a baby Breguet. That's exactly what it is. It has the same design language. I think a couple of things that I would call out.
You love these hot takes, dude.
I'm going to get sued by Breguet. Actually, Breguet is owned by Swatch, which is owned with the same company that owns Omega. So they'd be suing.
Maybe it's a compliment now.
It's a compliment. Maybe it's a compliment. A couple of things that I would pay attention to here or call out. Very similar to the Breguet design language, you have that kind of silver tone dial with that kind of like carbon blue color on the indices and on the hands and the second hand. It's a subtle look, but it absolutely does play up the watch quite a bit. You mentioned before it's 39.5 millimeters. I would say this is another one of those things that probably wears closer to a 38. So
Yeah.
if you're putting it on thinking it's 40 millimeters, it's going to be too big for a formal watch. I don't think that's the case. It is very thin, definitely fits super easily under the suit, and will be neat and tidy there. And again, I think, definitely not a pool watch as far as, swimming with it is concerned. But I think it will absolutely dutifully serve as that dress watch in a collection where the collector maybe goes, once a year to a formal event and has to wear something and, doesn't want to, maybe try to sneak a Submariner underneath their tuxedo. This is a nice piece. You're going to get compliments on it, across the board. And at the end of the day, you'll know that you spent a fraction of what some of the other players at the table were spending on their dress watches. So.
Yeah, I mean, I just checked. I mean, you're talking about $2,300, and now you have the dress watch portion of your collection solidified until you want to go crazy. That's the way I look at it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But
no, I think you're 100% right. At $2,300, it's still a very respectable watch. Meaning, it's an Omega. It's got a great movement in it. It's going to give you all of that. And being that it's naked and kind of basic. At sub $2,500, you can kind of feel very confident to wear that in the right settings and not have to have invested a ton of your collectible budget into the dress portion of your watch if that's just not that important to you.
Couldn't agree more. All right, that concludes.
Joe, before we
go ahead.
Yeah, before we move on, did you get the information for Brian on the years of production for that Aquaterra, or do we need to circle back?
I sent it out in the chat already, so it's 2016 to 2019.
Perfect. Awesome. So then it's not even that old then, really. It's like anywhere between like 8 and 5 years old. So yeah. I
remember it was running great. That was the important part. And Brian, we appreciate all your business over the last I would say a couple of weeks, which is kind of wild, but thanks for being here on the stream too. Anything else you want to add for all the inventory we've gone over? Nothing else on that?
No, just always check the website. There's more and more stuff coming. By the way, we're just about to launch a new URL. So we're going to have bst.watch, which is really cool because who knew that you could have a .watch address? So I think Larissa's still connecting all the back end dots there so that it leads over to BakerStreetTimepieces.com. But yeah, bst.watch will be a new URL that you guys can use, so it's a little easier to type it in. And check back every other day because we add new inventory pretty much every day. So
awesome. All right, next up we have Under the Lens, and this week's Under the Lens conversation point is, what is a chronograph? I feel like we put a lot of chronographs up. I feel like people like chronographs. I feel like they always are often like, this is something that just looks cool to me. But I mean, there's a real reason. There's a real tool behind it that, makes it something that, becomes even a little bit more expensive to service, a little bit more expensive usually to buy, so on and so forth. But also just more features, right? More complications to the watch itself. So I guess we figured we'd start by just defining, generally speaking, for any new collectors, kind of what a chronograph is. And then I do have queued up the Oris that I was wearing, so I can kind of show you a little bit about how it functions. And then we do have, just a couple of talking points around kind of the history of it, but we can walk into as much or as little as people think is valuable to them. So I would urge everybody, if there's questions or anything that pops up in the chat, I'm not going to say we definitely have the answers, but we will certainly try our best. But all right, first up, what's a chronograph? Well, I'm glad you asked, Joe. What's a chronograph? So chronograph is essentially a watch with a built-in stopwatch, right? So dating back to kind of the times where a stopwatch was a unique or individual thing that you would have to have in addition to something that kept time. This was essentially the combination of the two into one thing that then became a wristwatch, obviously. So what do you think, Tim? Should we just start by kind of I'll go and zoom in on mine and just show kind of the start-stop feature and stuff like that? Anything else?
Yeah, but I'm a little confused. I just thought you ran the chronograph so that the second hand looked like it was moving, and that made it look cool, and that's a chronograph.
No, that's just you. That's just you.
Okay. That's just a me problem?
He really does, though. He runs the chronograph on all his watches just because he wants the central second hand to match the sub-second hand because he's a little crazy like that.
And if I don't get it perfectly accurate, if I don't get it perfectly accurate, I'll sit there and relaunch that chronograph until my second hands are perfectly aligned. So
your watch's service history will not thank you, but that's okay.
I got a touch of the tiz. What do you want from me?
So here we go. This is the Oris Diver 65. This is the two-tone with bronze. We talked about it a little bit. This is what I was wearing at the start of the show. And what you'll see here is there's two plungers, right? One plunger, wow, that's really helpful, huh? One plunger up at the top and then one plunger down here at the bottom. Here, I'll throw on these gloves so you can't see my nasty fingernails. So essentially one is to start the chronograph and stop the chronograph, and then the other is to reset it. So if we talk about, and I'm going to try to move this microphone over just a little bit. So let's see, bear with me here. So if we talk about this one up here, I don't know if you can see it, but this one at the top would be to start the chronograph. So I'll go ahead and press it.
Yep.
And what you'll see is the chronograph central second hand starts moving. What that's doing is essentially going around the watch, and every time it hits a full minute, it's actually going to move this hand over here on the subdial. So that's basically indicating 1 minute has elapsed in time. And then if it goes around again, a second minute will have elapsed, so on and so forth. And then at any point in time, you can use that same starting plunger at the top to go ahead and press it, and it will stop time. And then you can press it again to start time again. So let's say you were going ahead and timing something, you wanted 30 seconds, you would theoretically stop it now, so on and so forth. But now as it kind of continues around, it will get back up to that 60-second mark, and then you'll watch as the sub-register on the right goes ahead and ticks over, indicating that 1 minute has elapsed, and now the second hand in the center will continue to count time after that first minute. So then it would be 1 minute and blah, blah, blah seconds. So we'll stall here for a few seconds as it gets to a minute, and hopefully as long as my watch doesn't need to be serviced, that second hand, that minute hand should tick over right about now, and there you go. So now we are 1 minute and 5 seconds at this point, and that's kind of how it works. Now you want to go ahead and stop this. Now it's stopped, and then you want to go ahead and use the bottom plunger down here, and that will essentially, let me just hold it, reset it back so that it's up at the top. Kind of hard to do with my hands all over there, but that's generally speaking what you will see in a 2 subdial configuration. So this subdial over here is the running seconds hand. So that's basically showing you the seconds, for your actual timekeeping. Then you have the minute register over there, and then that central second hand for the chronograph. There are some 3 subdial configurations. One which will have the running second hand, one which will have elapsed minutes, and then the other which will have elapsed hours. So different chronographs will have different kind of functionality. So you may see something like this, or you might see something a little bit more like this. So now this is a very different watch. So this is a quartz Tissot. And essentially what you're seeing here is the bottom subdial now is technically your running second hand. It's ticking because it's quartz. And now if we go ahead and engage that top plunger, what you're seeing there is that top right subdial is essentially giving you the full second sweep. And then the 1 second tick is happening around the outside. So again, that's showing you elapsed time in seconds, and then what is that, I guess 60th of a second, something like that. And then the one on the top left would give you your minutes register. So essentially just a way of registering elapsed time. And then you can use this in conjunction with scales around the outside, what you're seeing here. And that's essentially to time, how fast something's moving based on how long 2 points in time have taken to elapse in seconds. Probably a story for another time, but it is definitely possible to do it. And this is kind of 2 different chronographs and 2 different ways of looking at measuring elapsed time.
Cool. And then does the bottom plunger ever do anything other than reset?
I guess technically
the chrono?
It could, if you had, Retroponte or something like that. If it's split seconds, It would stop one of the... If you were measuring 2 different time periods, hitting the bottom one the first time should deploy the first stop, and then you'd hit it again to deploy the second stop. So there's actually 2 hands that would indicate when time stopped. Is that what you're getting at? And then,
yeah. Honestly, I'm asking questions because I don't know. Because like I said, I'm an idiot who just runs a chronograph all the time because I like the way it looks. And then the other thing is, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've read that if you have the chronograph running, so you've engaged the chronograph feature, and if you press the reset button while it's running, that's not particularly good for the movement. Is that correct?
So you would hope it doesn't let you do that, but yeah, that would be bad. Unless it's a movement that allows for that, which most chronographs wouldn't. But yes.
Cool. And I think, I know we have a whole history that we kind of laid out. I don't know that we're going to go through all of that. But I think from a practical application standpoint, I think the biggest standouts are pilots that are timing specific specific measures of time while they're in flight, and then the other divide is to racing. So if you really think about there's three major chronographs that I think about, right? There's the Navitimer, the Speedmaster, and the Daytona. The Speedmaster kind of splits the middle between the what do you call it? The aeronautical and the racing history.
Sure.
The Daytona is mostly racing, and the Breitling is mostly piloting. So correct me if I'm wrong on any of that.
I would say you probably could make the case for the IWC the IWC chronograph.
Yeah.
I think you could make the case for like the Octavia or even some of the other Tag Heuer references. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple of like, I would say notable chronographs over time, but
Monaco.
Be interested to see who else is going to call one out in the chat, because I know there's a bunch that we probably missed that we're gonna get yelled at for. But yeah, I would say
there's a couple of people in the chat what's everybody's favorite chrono? Drop it in the chat. Let's get a discussion happening.
Yeah. What's your favorite chrono?
Me?
Yeah.
I own quite a few. In fact, my 3 favorite watches are all
humble
chronos.
brag there. Like don't worry about him.
just like to watch them spin. I gotta say my Daytona. You know, it's funny. When I was going away a couple of weeks ago, I was really debating which watch to take, and I wound up taking the Daytona with me, and I really, had a re-falling in love while I was wearing it every day. In fact, I wore it to almost everything I did. I had taken, I think I'd mentioned on the stream, I bought a new G-Shock. I wore that once for 30 seconds. I bought a new Tissot. I wore that once for 30 seconds, and I wore the Daytona for the entire rest of the trip. So,
I mean, it's borderline perfect watch, so I don't know why you'd yell at anything else. And Brian says his brand new Zenith is his favorite chrono. What a great choice that was. That's for sure.
Good choice, yeah.
Well, Zenith, long history of chronographs, so nothing to shy away from there. And then he also said flyback is a whole nother story, but yeah, that's for sure. Probably a story for another day. But yeah, I think my favorite would have to be a cross between the Zenith El Primero. So Brian, just so you're aware, I'm looking for a blue one. That's my next step. So that's what's replacing that one. And I think you got to give a nod to the classic Moonwatch.
Yes. Yeah.
And then Nick said, if you have a flyback, the bottom pusher can be used to reset it on the fly without having to restart. So it'll stop the first time period and start time. Means. There you go. Yeah. Thank you, Nick.
Look at me being in the watch game for 30 years and not knowing what the hell a flyback chrono is. Thanks, Nick.
Well, Nick took care of us.
I salute you.
All right, cool. And I think that's kind of what we had for today's stream.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions in the comments? We got a little interaction. That's awesome. I feel like
super exciting.
I feel like we're not just talking to ourselves, which is a cool thing.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I would say, we really appreciate that everybody jumped on and had some conversation with us today. We are trying to keep this every week as much as we can, so we'd appreciate if you guys stick around and want to join us next week. That'd be great. Other than that, anything to close out, Tim?
Just if by some miracle you're actually enjoying this content, which we bow gratefully and say thank you. Tell a friend. We'd love to build the social side of BST into something more than just hawking watches, right? Like, we want to sell watches. There's no secret there. That's why we do this. But at the same time, I think Joe would agree that we started this as a way to bring information to people. And, sure. I'm going to learn, hopefully Joe will learn something along the way, and hopefully some of our customers and clients will learn along the way. And ultimately, we can become a resource for everybody to learn together, which is important to me anyway.
Yes, sir. I would just say, again, we appreciate it. Anything else you guys could think of that we should talk about next time, we're certainly all ears, and we appreciate that too. And other than that, I think it's time to close this one out. So
let's close the case on this one.
Chapter 6, case closed. Thanks all.
Case closed. Later.